Let's head right over to the phones because carving time out of, well, I say this every time that we talk, a very busy schedule. I don't know if it's ever been busier than it is right now. Congressman Adam Kinzinger is on the line. Congressman, good morning.
Hey, it's good to be with you. Yeah, it's been pretty busy, but, we'll all get through this.
Well, that's the hope anyway. So we had the vote yesterday, the vote to impeach the president. You had issued a statement a couple of days before that outlining your thoughts on it and pronouncing that you would be voting yes on impeachment, which, as a matter of fact, you did, along with, do I have this right, 9 other Republicans?
Yeah, that's right. Look, I'm glad I can get a chance to talk about it because I think, this is a vote that I think is not a vote about, well, what do people want you to do? What is, good for you politically? I think it's a vote of what does the oath to the Constitution tell you? So, if you think about it, I represent obviously around 750,000 people. None of those 750,000 people are forced to swear on an oath to the Constitution of the United States in the role of a congressman except me. And that oath is the thing that honor bounds me to protect and defend the Constitution. And let's think about what happened on January 6th. First off, I'm not sure if when we were doing an interview I mentioned it or not, but I have been predicting violence on the 6th for a while because I've been reading Twitter. I've been reading the things that were said. And what happened then on the 6th, and it wasn't everybody, 99% of the people out there had no desire to go into the U.S. Capitol. Some did. But there's also been for 4 years a foundation that has been laid by the president that for the last 2 months allowed this idea that this election was stolen despite all evidence to permeate and lead to this. So, look, I'm at total peace with my vote. The Article 2 branch of the Constitution attacking and inciting an insurrection against the Article 1 branch. I'm at peace. I hate that I had to do it.
And you had mentioned earlier on that you take politics aside, what's politically expedient, and put that sort of thing aside. What has been the reaction from the district here? What have you been hearing? I would imagine your phones have been busy. I would imagine social media and messaging has probably been at a higher level than it's been up to this point.
It's been, people are angry that I'm voting this way and that I voted this way. And that, these calls started when I started speaking out about that the election wasn't stolen. My responsibility is not to tell you or to tell listeners what is going to make them happy, like to reaffirm what the president's saying. My job, at least as I take it, as I was raised, is not to say the easy things, to tell the truth. And the truth is there was not a single court case that said it was stolen, and then we had a massive... So the calls are, they're mad at me, right? And I think it goes to, if there's, I see the speculation that I'm doing this to, quote-unquote, position myself to run statewide. This is the dumbest thing to do if you want to run statewide. And but I feel at peace. I prayed about this a lot. I had to look forward and say in 40 years, maybe I'll have grandkids in 40 years. If they look back, how will this be judged in history? And I got to tell you, my friend, I do not think that anybody is going to look back in history and say that was the wrong thing to vote to impeach, besides the emotion of the politics of the moment.
For those along this line, for those who were saying, okay, look, the guy's out in a few days, regardless of how you may feel about, inciting quote unquote insurrection, fomenting this sort of rebellion, whatever you would like to call it. Why not just ride out the last few and send him on his way? He's gone anyway. What's this going to do?
So, look, I think that's a fair argument. And I think that argument and the process argument, that this was rushed. There really is no outline in the Constitution that you have to do it a certain way. But, but we all lived that. We didn't have to discover evidence. So, when it comes to that, look, I actually was of that view. I was of the view, and I still am, that, just kind of, I wanted him removed by the 25th Amendment. If that wasn't going to happen, my view was just let him kind of write it out. The problem is, and I said that, the problem is I don't get to pick what comes to the floor. And a decision was made to impeach. I had the article in front of me that read as something that, I think this is true. He did this, and I had no choice at that point. And so, I think there were a lot of people that impeached him for political reasons, but I'll tell you, there are a lot of people that impeached him because it weighed on their heart. And all 10 of us Republicans, by the way, before you think there's only 10 of us, there were probably 100 that wanted to vote for it that were scared to death of the political ramifications. The 10 that voted for this did so purely out of conscience, purely putting their careers on the line to do what they think is right. And I think that's, to my 9 other people that voted for that way, I admire them, not because of their vote, but because of their courage.
Yeah, and one of them in particular, Liz Cheney, is really, really taking it on the chin from this one, and seemingly from fellow Republicans who are in the same area as you.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, like, Liz, I think Jim Jordan had started circulating the letter. He's backed off, I think, of that because he realizes how failed that is. Actually, Jim Jordan is in real trouble for a number of reasons. And so Liz Cheney's leadership has actually strengthened a lot, because I had said there were 100 people probably in the Republicans that privately told me they would vote to impeach if they could. There's about 180 of those that very much respect that Liz was willing to take a stand, even if you disagree with it. That wasn't necessarily politically expedient. You compare that to some of our other leadership, and that's I admire anybody that stands against Ukraine, even if I disagree with them.
Where does it go from now? I know where it goes. I mean, it goes to the Senate. We've heard Mitch McConnell say, well, we're not going to be able to do anything with this until post-inauguration of Joe Biden. So at that point, what happens?
So it does, and I actually agree with McConnell that this shouldn't be brought up right now, right? Let's pause, get through the inauguration, and then take it up. So it will go to the Senate, and it will go to the Senate for a trial, just like the last impeachment. And I do actually think as every day goes by, more information comes out, more pardons get put out. There's still a lot of people wishing they'd have voted this way, but that's what will go into a Senate trial like usual. And if he is found guilty, I guess he loses all his retired, kind of perks or whatever, but will not be able to run again. And look, it's the hardest vote I've ever taken in my life. Believe it or not, I actually got along with Donald Trump really well, and I'd only call him on occasion if I didn't like something he did until the election. And when the election was cast and the votes were cast, that's when I went hard, because that's what I want to defend, is people's right to vote and the value of their vote. And it cannot be undermined by people casting doubt because they don't like the fact that they lost an election.
So what's the current mood around the Hill? I've been reading extensively on this, and longtime members of Capitol Hill, longtime denizens of Capitol Hill have pointed out that they have never felt things feeling quite the same way as they do right now.
It is. It's as bad as I've ever seen, and I would always hesitate to say that because I want people to have a good view of their government. But look, the magnetometers, the metal detectors that were put around the floor, they can go out to the press and say, we fear for our safety. Everybody knows that was targeted to Republicans. We obviously can't go out and yell about it because we're going to look like we're just whining and, we're special. They've done that. The fine rule for a mask. By the way, most of us are vaccinated now, but we have to wear a mask on the floor even when speaking, and now we have a fine of $5,000 for the first violation. By the way, not even enforceable by the Constitution. And so this is in the middle of the fact that we had a massive, occupation of the Capitol where people feared for their life. So, look, I think there is a responsibility on Republicans who have caused damage and Democrats who have caused damage to this narrative to just friggin' stop and do politics again. And I think the American people are desperate for it. People's engines have been on red line. That includes every listener. That includes every member of Congress. And it's time to move ahead. It's time to pray. It's time to love God, love your children, and love your country, and just do this the right way.
Congressman, I know you've got other places to be and things to do. Before I let you go, is there anything that I haven't asked you, anything that you wanted to say, anything you want to do, make sure people understood about your vote, how you stand on this, where you think we're going and all that you'd like to get out there?
Yeah, look, I think this is what's important. There is not, what happened on January 6th was not everybody there. There are probably people listening that were there that had a legitimate concern. I disagreed with the concern, but I understand the concern. When people cross that barrier, though, and occupy the Capitol for the first time since 1812, that's when the military man in me, got my gander up. And I'll tell you, I truly felt a sense of evil that day, not from everybody marching, but from those coming in and tearing up the Capitol. And I can tell my story, maybe when we have more time sometime. But, if I don't get reelected, I'm okay with that. But I appreciate the opportunity to serve everybody, and I feel at peace.
Congressman, thank you very much for taking time out of a day, for answering the questions, for letting us know how you feel on things. I'll look forward to our next conversation.
You too, my friend. Take care.